Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Mr. Long Island's Search for Truth and Beauty. My name is Michael Watt, aka Mr. Long Island, and each week we look for issues and organizations that discuss issues that need to be discussed on Long Island and spotlight great things that are happening in our region. This week our guest is Beth Meixner from the Moxie Network and Laura Joseph from Hewlett Packard. Ladies, thank you very much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you.
And what we like to do on our program here is highlight programs like yours, the Moxie Network, that does great things for the region, and the more people know about them, the more good you can do across Nassau and Suffolk County. So thank you very much for joining us today. And like we start off each week, we like to talk about pizza. And the reason for that is in all my travels across Nassau and Suffolk County, with all the diversity and all the different parts of the region that we have, the one thing every town on Long Island has in common is a pizza place. And most Long Islanders, I used to say all Long Islanders until I met you two, most Long Islanders have strong opinions about pizza. So we have a little fun with the show. Where's your favorite pizza place? And the criteria is if you had friends come in from out of town and say, we want to have some real good Long Island pizza, where would you bring them?
Well, I have 3 places that I go to, so I'll list them.
Okay.
One is, I live in Brightwater, so I go to Brightwater's Pizza.
Okay.
Mama Santini, it's called. I also live by Bayshore, so I go to Salvatore's Pie.
Okay, Pie by Salvatore.
Pie by Salvatore.
All right.
And then I also love the Crispina Pizza from Mulberry Street.
Very nice.
So it depends on what pizza I want.
There you go. Laura, where's your favorite pizza place?
I would say closest for me would be Branchinelli's, which is actually in Hauppauge, by where
Okay.
my kids went to school. If we want to travel for nice pizza, we actually go out to Holbrook to Mama Lombardi's, because
Very
we love
nice.
their pizza, and it's where I used to work out by the airport.
You know, and it's fascinating. People will travel. You'll go. When I
yeah.
drive to Pie by Salvatore, which is one of my favorite places, I must pass a dozen pizza places, and that speaks volumes of Salvatore. So that's
Well,
great.
you don't want to have lousy pizza.
Life is too short, and there's no
Absolutely.
reason for lousy pizza on
Nope.
Long Island. So, ladies, thank you very much. Beth, we were talking about the Moxie Network. Why don't you walk us through a little bit about the Moxie Network, what it is, how you came about creating that, and what your goals are?
Okay. Well, I started Moxie Network, LLC, almost 6 years ago.
Wow.
I was doing marketing for a small graphic design firm called Target Group Media. And because of it, I was doing a lot of networking. I was out morning, noon, and night, and I love networking. I'm a very social person. I like people. I like hearing their stories. So for me, networking was very natural. And it does work. You have to put time into it, but it does work. But I was just getting a little disenchanted with some of the people I was meeting. I wasn't meeting decision makers. I wasn't meeting people that could afford my services because we were a little pricey for our website and design prices. And I just thought, with the women's groups, there's got to be something where we really help women. I've always been an advocate for women. And I've just felt that at this time in my life, our lives, shouldn't there be more women in leadership positions? So I thought there's got to be a niche market for senior level, sophisticated business women who are not the typical networkers who maybe work behind the scenes but are senior level, can make decisions, have connections. There's got to be a place for them because they are also the best ones to mentor younger women.
Okay.
And I find that mentoring younger women, whether they're in college or in their 20s, which Laura mentors, is really the best way to get them groomed for leadership positions because women do lack confidence.
Okay.
We're just different beings than men, and I think that the mentoring gives them confidence. We teach them business skills. We get them out of a campus mindset and into a career mindset. And so after I started Moxie Network for 13 months, I wanted to build a membership base because I knew that's where we were going to get our mentors from.
Okay.
And after 13 months, we launched our first program called Junior Moxie. It's an individual mentoring program for college women. And the year after that, we wanted to fill in the gaps, so we launched Ms. Moxie, which is a group mentoring program for women in their 20s and early 30s. Each year, the programs were getting bigger and better, more expansive. We were offering more programs, more workshops, and Moxie Network was really paying the costs and doing all the overhead and all the work for it. And it just got to the point where we have to open a foundation to start raising funds because we knew the programs were just going to get bigger and bigger every year. So 2 years ago, we opened Moxie Mentoring Foundation, our
Very
nonprofit
nice.
arm.
Good for you. Can you give me an example of some of the programs that you offer?
Well, we have our Junior Moxie program, which is an individual mentoring program. So we pair up a college woman with one of our mentors, and
Okay.
all of our mentors are volunteers. They come
Okay.
from Moxie Network, they're members, and then they volunteer. So we hook them up with one college woman for the school year. But we try not to put too much of a burden on these women because they're running companies, running departments, they have their own lives and families. So Moxie takes on a lot of that burden by planning workshops and by taking the college girls on field trips. We feel that by taking them on exciting field trips like Google, WABC TV News, Long Island Homeland Security, WCBS News Radio, we've gone to all these locations. The college girls can learn about that specific industry, and then while we're there, they get to meet 3, 4, 5 women of all different levels in different departments. So they not only understand about that industry, but about different types of jobs within that industry. And then our other program, the Ms. Moxie, of which Laura is a mentor and received our award.
Very nice.
Laura has received our Purple Pump Award for Outstanding Mentor.
Thank you.
So thank you, Laura.
A couple times.
A couple times, twice, right? She has 2. So that program is a group mentoring program. They meet for an hour and a half every month,
Once a month.
month to month, and we have it's a structured curriculum, 9 workshops. We teach them how to negotiate, effective communication skills. We give them personality tests, presentation skills. The whole idea is to increase their personal and professional acumen so that they have the confidence and the skills and the desire to succeed. We need more women leaders.
Very nice. And now, Laura, why don't you walk us through a little bit? You're a mentor. I guess you've been a mentor. You got matching purple pumps now, so you've been a
Yes, I
mentor
do.
a while.
They're both lefts, though. We only get left pumps. I get 2 left feet.
Why don't you walk us through the mentoring process? And somebody once shared with me that the mentor you learn just as much from the mentee.
Absolutely.
So why don't you walk us through that a little bit? What's it
Sure.
like to be a mentor? What are the benefits? What's been your experience in the whole process?
Yep. So I actually started with Beth with the pilot group 4 years ago, and we created the program together. We got a lot of input from some of the women as to where they thought the young women in industry were struggling a little bit, and put together what was originally a 6-month program, and then we got with that same group, and we wound up, there were more topics than we had months for, so we extended it. And it's been working out extremely well. I would say the interesting thing is watching each person deal with their own personal struggles and not only be the person that can provide some guidance, but also to watch the other girls in the group be able to share their insights and give that same kind of guidance. And the way that they all bond together from having those kinds of conversations. We've got some lifelong friends that have come out of that program. As far as a give back is concerned, which I never really thought that there would be something that I would get out of it other than just feeling good about what I'm doing. But it has helped me tremendously in my own role, because if you think about the people coming up through the ranks that I'm now managing, that I've got some really good insight into what they're struggling with as I'm going ahead and doing my mentoring program. So I'm getting the good part from over here. It's helping me in my own internal work environment, and it's just been fabulous.
Have the issues and the challenges faced by young women now in the workplace, have they changed over the last couple of years? I mean, you watch an episode of Mad Men, you can almost make a drinking game out of how many times something offensive happens that women today in the workplace would find offensive, and men as well. Has it gotten better? Is it worse? Are the challenges changing?
I think there's much more awareness. Some things aren't said that used to be said, but
Well, when you say things are said that
maybe
Offensive
offensive things to
Okay.
a woman.
Right.
They're not being said as much. It still happens, believe it or not.
It
We hear
does
it.
still happen.
We hear it, and with a lot of our young girls, our young girls, they're educated, they dress well, they speak well, they have confidence, and sometimes they're approached by men, particularly at trade shows or things like that,
Right.
in a non-professional matter. So we teach them how to deal with that. So it's happening. It's not happening as much because of all the programs that companies have now. But it still happens.
So what's the biggest challenge that Moxie faces at this point? I mean, what do you really find yourself battling against to kind of get the message out there?
Well, actually, it's easier for us to get mentors than
Okay.
it is to get mentees. We have a lot of women that are just dying to become a mentor because they hear women like Laura talk about their wonderful experience. And I was a mentor to several girls, and I ran a mentoring group myself, and the satisfaction you get is immediate.
Right.
Unlike a mentee, sometimes it takes a mentee a little longer to realize. It's like anything else in life. If you look back and you look at somebody that may have been a role model to you, at the time, did you realize they were a role model?
Right.
No. The further away you get from that experience, the more you realize what that person meant to you and how they helped you. So while it's immediate gratification for the mentors, sometimes it does take a little longer for the mentees. So, but we struggle to get young women. I don't know whether they're concerned about the program, that it'll take some time away from work, but we charge a very small mentoring fee, and most of these young women, their companies pay. And if it's a college, their colleges pay to put them in the program.
And you mentioned workshops. I mean, can you walk us through what a couple of typical workshop might be? What would you cover? What's involved?
Laura, you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So we've done, I mean, in the program, we've done things like difficult conversations, how to handle difficult conversations. How do you resign from a job? How do you ask for a raise? How do you deal with somebody who may be harassing you in one way, shape, manner, or form? How do you realize when you're being passed over for something, and how do you position yourself so that that doesn't happen in the future? That is a premium one. I think everybody gets a ton out of that. We do one on negotiating, as Beth mentioned. We do one on, we do a personality assessment so that not only do they understand what makes them tick, but then we take it one step further and go, now, go find your boss's personality in this chart. Go find your spouse if you have a spouse, right? If you didn't get along with your parents, go find your parents in there. You'll figure out why you didn't get along with your parents, kind of thing. So we give them a lot of skills that they don't get anywhere else, and we give them the wherewithal as to how to use those skills to better themselves in their own organizations.
Now, I've heard it said, and I've seen, sad to say, I've seen examples of it, but sometimes women can be their own worst enemy within a corporate structure. I mean, do you deal with that, or have you seen that? Is that getting better or worse, or is there any validity to that?
Well, obviously it depends on the individual, but you know, the old philosophy of women trying to act more like men in business is out.
Okay.
Women bring a lot to the table just by being our own authentic self. There's a reason there's two sexes. We work together. We're the yin and the yang. We are not trying to kick men out of boardrooms or out of leadership positions. We want to sit alongside them and make decisions, because study after study has proven that the best outcomes are achieved when men and women work together using their own innate talents.
Right.
So that is our goal. We are definitely not anti-men at Moxie. We love men. I married a man. We are actually starting a program in the fall where men can participate as mentors to our young ladies. So that's very exciting.
That is exciting, but I just want to be clear. I mean, I was talking about women who sabotage other women's careers, and maybe the cattiness that comes up. And again, I've seen it, I've heard it.
Yep.
But I don't know if it's really still out there, or if it's a concern.
It's out
It's
there.
out there. It depends, I think, on the female and how secure she is in her own executive leadership skills. So I think somebody who's secure in what they're doing is more likely to be receptive to bringing others up through the ranks. Somebody who feels a little threatened is typically the ones we have a problem with, and we have dealt with that in the Difficult Conversations workshop, because that is absolutely one of them.
So you're empowering the women who belong to your young women who belong to your network. You empower them to deal with that, to recognize it, and to diffuse the situation, which is really important. And then when they're in that position, maybe they're a little more forthcoming with some welcome. So that's great.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about the event you have coming up later this year.
Yes, we have our third annual Emerald Summit. It's a fundraising luncheon to raise money for our foundation. It's really a women's leadership forum. Because we promote young women in business, our keynote speaker is a 27-year-old woman. She's the director of research for Catalyst, Inc. Her name is Anna Benninger. Catalyst is a nonprofit located in New York City. They do a lot of studies, international and national studies about women in leadership positions, and they try to get women into leadership positions. She's our keynote speaker.
Wow.
After that, we have a leadership/mentoring panel, of which you will be moderating. Thank you, Michael.
The things you do for a free meal. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really looking forward to
It'll be
this.
a good meal.
It'll be a good meal. And then we have 2 male leaders and 2 female leaders. The event is held at the Cold Spring Country Club. It is Wednesday, October 29th. From 11 a.m. to 2:30, and it is a fundraising event. There'll be raffles, there'll be vendor exhibitions, and so we're really looking forward. We really need the money. Obviously, we cannot charge our mentees
Right.
what it costs us to run the program, so we really have to rely on donations, corporate sponsorships, and the like.
Well, let's touch on one other issue. You talk about women in leadership, particularly on Long Island. Now, about 20 years ago, I was the director of PR for a local college, and the call went out. We said, we need more women on our board. And they told me, find some women who are leaders on their own right, and boy, oh boy, I had the hardest time. I mean, is that getting better or worse? Like I said, it was 20 years ago. You know, who can we point to and say, hey, you know, besides Corinne Caro, who can we point to and say, here's somebody, you know, here's a sign that things are getting better on the island?
Well, you know, Michael, business was built centuries ago, and it was built by men. And it suited their personalities, it suited their thoughts, their brain waves, and it was built on the military from the top down.
Okay.
And it's still, that structure pretty much exists in corporate America. If you imagine a world where women created business centuries ago, it would look a lot different. It would be more collaborative, it would be more family friendly. So as corporate America stands now, women and mothers, and some working fathers as well, we don't fit into the corporate America. We've got to create a new paradigm, which is why most small businesses being started these days are started by women, because we're not fitting into corporate America. You can't necessarily go to the top and be a mother. You can't have it all. You can have it all, not at the same time.
Right.
So a lot of women are giving up, obviously, unless men start giving birth. I don't think we'll ever have the 50-50%.
Right.
But there's no reason why we can't have 30% of women in these positions. It's just a matter of kind of changing the paradigm and having men realize the importance that women are essential to the bottom line. We really help business.
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting, and I hope it's an apt analogy, but where I went to school, I lived off campus my freshman year, and it was a bit of a zoo, the dorm. And the last time I was up at campus, it was now a co-ed dorm. And I was talking to the dean about it, and he said, once we went co-ed, and it's like, you know, men live on the first floor, women live, he said the behavioral incidents went down like precipitously. He said if we had known how much better the men would behave with the women living in the building, we would have done it years ago.
That's right.
And then you look at organizations that run afoul of the law, and you look and they tend to be dominated, or male-dominated organizations. So it's an interesting, when you bring in more influences into the mix. And the really good news, and I'll just bring in my group of the Links, the Association for Young Professionals, their diversity is so important to them. And to have that proper mix, I think it really bodes well for the future of Long Island, because we are very insulated here. And as a result, you don't have that mix that you need. And maybe that explains why we have so many challenges on the island as well. So it would be very interesting to see the work that you do become a really influencing factor on how things operate here across Nassau and Suffolk County. So I encourage you to keep at it. But the good news is the people coming up the pike, the next generation, the ones that I'm working with, and I'm sure the ones that you're working with too, are very bright, and they're not afraid to tell the emperor he's not wearing any clothes, which is really interesting.
And they're not shy.
They're not shy, and they speak their mind. And you know, we hear references to the entitlement generation. I really would like to touch on this quickly, if you don't mind. I don't see it. The ones that I'm working with are really ready, willing, and able to work very hard. I mean, is that what you're coming across?
Those are also the ones that gravitate towards you.
Right.
Yeah. Laura, do you want to speak on that
No,
with your group?
yeah, I would agree. I think the people that want to do better, which are the ones that we typically interface with, they're not the entitled ones.
Right.
The entitlement ones are the ones that are waiting for somebody to hand them something. These gals are not waiting for somebody to hand them. They're looking for the tools so that they can climb their own ladder. So I think it has to do with where they're coming from and probably how they were brought up as well. But I think there's always going to be I won't call them entitled, the people who are waiting to have somebody help them, and then the people who are willing to climb it on their own.
Well, I have a theory that I'm still working on, but you know, living on Long Island, especially for the under 30 crowd, is such a challenge that only the really best and the brightest are up to it. Everyone else is kind of scattered for North Carolina, you know. And again, it's a good news, bad news kind of thing for the island. The website is
MoxieNetwork.com
Okay.
for
and,
our membership organization, and for our foundation, it's MoxieMentoring.org.
and we can get information about the event in October?
Yep, the Emerald Summit, October 29th.
All right, and anyone looking to be a mentor can reach out to you?
Yes,
and
all
or
the
a
information
mentee?
is on the website.
Terrific. Well, this has been terrific, ladies. I really appreciate
you.
your time
Thanks,
and
Michael.
coming out and learning more about the Moxie Network and extracting that pizza place from you both. So it was a lot of fun, so thank you both very much.
Thanks, Mike,
Thank
and
you.
I'll see you at the Emerald Summit.
Oh, absolutely. This has been yet another episode of Mr. Long Island's Search for Truth and Beauty. My name is Michael Watt, a.k.a. Mr. Long Island, and I thank you all very much for joining us this afternoon.